Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, and blessed Vesak. Heat of Vesak is still on for the whole month, and so thank you for joining me and all your friends. And Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra this is regular Sunday morning practice, meditation and teaching. So those of you who are regular, very familiar. Others who are new, whether you discovered us through YouTube or Facebook or Zoom, please feel free to join every Sunday at 11 o'clock. If not me, there will be always someone else will be leading these sessions, and make your weekly meditation and Buddhist practice together with fellow Sangha members is very important. So thank you. We will do a short prayer at the beginning as usual, and then we will do 3 lots of 10 minutes calm abiding meditation, followed by a talk on the life of the Buddha in relation to the Buddha Jayanti. So that's the theme of today's talk. So please sit still and be present in your correct posture, correct intention, correct attention, and correct technique of your meditation, which largely to observe stillness of your posture and sincerity of your intention, serenity and serenity of your attention. So you've got to really know exactly how to occupy your mind mindfully in the meditation. Largely posture and qualified around breathing, counting forward and counting reverse. So with this, we'll now do the refuge and four immeasurables. So please include everyone in your thoughts and prayers, and people or situations where they are not able to find light of hope, but always caught in the darkness of doubt, or fear, or anxiety. May they just embrace what it may, let it come. For there are nothing that will stay anyway, So may they have the strength in the Dharma and the right view to tackle any challenges, whatever they may be, by understanding the teaching, by learning to let go, by learning to not get attached to things or people or health or security, because they're all sooner or later they're going to slip away anyway. So this is just question is when, and we have to be pretty ready to accept whenever that happens, whatever that might be. So with this, please be inclusive of other people whose life is incredibly, unpredictably, precariously, in the war, in tragedy, in violence, in natural disasters. You just wouldn't believe how fortunate we are, living peacefully at our home and so on, in a very safe country. Many people's life is exactly opposite. So with this in mind, be inclusive of the prayer and your intention as we do these prayers. Oyenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Aitere Yede Ladema Bhavachu Ajendala Ajare Vada Joebi Dabu Dharma Sangha Aitere Yede Ladema Bhavachu Ajivandala Ajare Pada Ajave and Abu Dharma Zanga Ajere Vidaladama Bavaja Ajivandala Ajare Pada beings. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. Hello, everyone. So, thank you for joining me once again. We have just finished the meditation, and I don't think you should ever finish your meditation, but we should continue the meditation, I should say. But so the theme of today's talk is Buddha Jayanti special because we are in the middle of Sagadawa. According to Buddhist calendar, the actual anniversary of Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing away all fell on last Thursday. That's the full moon. And most Buddhists aren't able to celebrate on the. They have to celebrate on the weekend. So some celebrated yesterday, others today, and some even weekend before. I noticed. Our neighbor, the Sri Lankan Buddhist Society, is celebrating today. So we are celebrating every day. I'm celebrating every day. To me, the life of Buddha and his teaching is every day of my joy. But nevertheless, today I'm going to speak on the life of the Buddha in relation to Buddha Jayanti. Buddha Jayanti is Jayanti. Jayanti really means is Buddha's enlightenment, rather, because Jaya has a meaning of victory. Buddha attaining victory. That means enlightenment. So it's not just birth. So I'm going to speak in relation to the main activities of the Buddha, and those places where those occurred, and the people in his life, and how that constitute the actual the story of the Buddha. Incredible. But anything you can remember or recollect on the qualities and activities of Buddha is already a good meditation. Even the statues, the deities, mantras, all these recitation, all these are attributed to the Buddha's enlightened activities. If it wasn't his enlightenment, even his birthplace would not be featured. So the Nepalese could not really be so proud of Buddha's birth in Lumbini if it didn't get attain enlightenment. So we need to therefore look in a whole context of how all these 12 great deeds of the Buddha came in form of the historical Nirmanakaya aspect of the Buddha coming to the world. So when I think about places, those historical places and Buddha's life, first place that comes to my mind is Kapilavastu. Kapilavastu is his parental home and the city of Hangsavati, the palace of Hangsavati in city of Kapilavastu of King Shuddhodana. His father's name is Shuddhodana. His father had 4 brothers, and each of the 4 brothers have number of children, some of whom feature in life of Buddha in the name of Ananda, Aniruddha, Mahanama, Devadatta, and so on. So they're all his cousins. They're all born in Kapilavastu. As Buddha was not quite born in Kapilavastu, he was conceived in Kapilavastu. Kapilavastu is today situated in Nepal, just 10-15 kilometers west of Lumbini. It has the ancient ruins of the palace Hangsavati. Hangsavati is named after ducks. Hangs means duck. There was a beautiful pond nearby the palace, and it usually so many swans. It more looked like a palace of the swans. So that's the kind of palace, and it is there Queen Mayadevi, Buddha's mother, conceived. In the night when she conceived, she had incredible dreams. And one of the vivid dreams was that a very beautiful white elephant, which is never heard of, let alone seen, entered in her body. Can you imagine that? And as her body wasn't big enough. And it was not an ordinary elephant, it was six-tusked elephant, completely covered by, draped, I would say draped and ornamented with this full royal kind of elephant kind of adornments. And when she dreamt that the elephant entered in her womb, she felt great bliss. In the morning when she woke up, she told her dream to her husband, and then she, who excitedly invited many soothsayers, and who all unanimously predicted that an amazing special child has conceived. Either he will become enlightened, should he choose a spiritual life, or he will be the Chakravartin, the universal monarch. And then Queen Mayandevi, delighted by this, and her dream experience was so indescribably special, she told her husband she, from now onwards, in order to honor her would-be child, she will observe the 8 precepts for the rest until the child was born. So this meant that she's going to sort of honor the conceived child as a special. Of course, for every mother, that's the case. For her, the dream came on the very night she conceived, and so on. So anyway, to cut the long story short, couple of Astu is only in the vicinity of the Lumbini. Lumbini is Buddha's grandmother's name, and it is a garden named after her name because she was so fond of flowers. In her ripe age, her husband, the king of Devadaha, built this garden to honor his wife while she was alive. And then when she died, of course, the whole garden was named after the very queen whose sake the garden was made. So Lumbini is situated between Kapilavastu and Devadaha. Devadaha is another maybe 20 or 30 kilometers east of Lumbini, which is Buddha's maternal home. Anyway, so the story goes that when he traveled, his mother, Mayandevi, traveled to Lumbini, either just to go there, or some people say that she was traveling to her maternal home to give birth to the child. In any case, she didn't get to reach maternal home. In that very garden, she had a little rest, and then instantly Buddha was born. So Lumbini is the birth place of the Buddha. The birth of the Buddha coincided with many incredible auspicious signs, and the world shook, the earth shook 6 different ways, and many beautiful flowers blossom out of season, and an incredible number of auspicious things happen in the kingdom of Shakyas. And then, of course, after his birth, instantly he's walked 7 steps on each direction, miraculously. It is said that she didn't really have a labor pain as such because she wasn't lying down, or she was just with her companion in the garden. All of a sudden, the royal child just come out. It looks like from her right armpit, so to speak. Anyway, so as the womb wasn't good enough. But I think they always say they always say untainted by the womb. The royal child was born untainted by the womb, as the womb was dirty or something. So of course, anyway, so Buddha was born in Lumbini. As soon as he was born, he walked 7 steps in each direction, and he said this is his last incarnation in a mortal body. As soon as he was born, Indra and Brahma and all the gods descended from heaven and poured holy water and bathed his holy body. They wanted to give a cloth, but Buddha refused to accept cloth. Indra wanted to touch him, but he didn't let him touch. He walked, and so on. Anyway, so this birth was so miraculous, and then the journey, even though was intended to continue to the east, didn't. So journey then returned back to the home palace, couple of Astu, and it said that within a week of his birth, his mother, Maya Devi, passed away. And Buddha apparently timed this very well when he was conceived, because if he had conceived earlier, it is said that she, as a mother, will die of a heart attack when she see her child leaving the home. So he didn't want that to occur. So he delayed his conception until then, so that she just had time to give birth, and otherwise then she was going to die within a week. So that's the case. So that's the association with Lumbini, Kapilavastu, and the Devadaha. And then, of course, it is in Kapilavastu where Buddha spent 29 years, during which he studied, he learned, and then he got married. And even though he was not really into marriage, but when his father suggested that he marry, he said, I wouldn't marry at all, for there is none whatsoever who will be a suitable wife of his. It's more like more as a good excuse not wanting to marry than telling they are not qualified women. But his father insisted that there will be qualified women, so then Prince Siddhartha wrote all the description of the characteristic of the young maiden who will fit his partner, his wife. And finally, and they shortlisted, and they actually found one girl who was none other than his own cousin, Yashodhara. In those days, marrying cousin was considered very important. If you can marry a cousin, then the luck and wealth, prosperity, and family heirloom stayed in the same family type of thing. Anyway, so Yashodhara is a very important woman. She actually is same age as him. There are many people who were born on the same day as the Buddha who played very, very important roles, and she was one. And Buddha's own attendant also was one. So and there were four great kings of India, Shravasti and Varanasi and in Magadha and in various places. All of their sons were born on the same day as Buddha's birth. So there was incredible timing, how these many people were born the same day and who they were all going to play a significant role in the life of the Buddha. Anyway, so Yashodhara was finally was selected to be the wife. So they got married, and finally Yashodhara proved to be the most polite, most respectful, modest girl among the many tests and qualities Buddha required of the girl's characteristic. One of them became very evident when everybody was at that special party that was held, when all the suitors, all the possible girls were invited for a special party, even though they knew sort of Yashodhara was the one, but they wanted to check whether young Prince Siddhartha, which was Buddha's childhood name, showed any particular interest to any particular of the girls, and then made him to give a gift to all the girls during the particular party. And of course, all the girls came up to receive the present, and Prince Siddhartha gave one each. And then basically he ran out of all the gifts left, and then there was one last person to come, and that was Yashodhara. And Yashodhara, one of the qualities, she was so polite, she made everybody to go before her. She left herself as the last. So that very much sort of sealed the very choice, because how unselfish, how modest, how polite she was. And then the young prince unhesitatingly gave his own ring to her, and so that sort of matched not only the characteristic he required of, and so but it is said that her father, Suprabuddha, did not want to marry his daughter to the Prince Siddhartha, because there were many other prince of India kingdoms wanted have also been asking for her hand, so that everybody had to do a competition, sporting competitions. I don't know what else they had to do in order to whoever won all the competition and will marry her. So young Prince Siddhartha had to engage in incredible number of archery, swimming, various athletic, and I don't know what else. They have to engage in so many competitions. He won in all of them. And so finally he got married, and then I think he must have been a teenager. In India, the people marrying early was considered very important. Anyway, so until age 29, he fulfilled his father's wishes by reigning the kingdom of Shakya, and King Shuddhodana gave his son the name Siddhartha. Siddhartha meaning Siddha meaning accomplishment, Artha meaning meaningful accomplishment. Of course, having a son is a very big accomplishment. And not only that, he discovered many treasures. Crops were ripen, out of season. So were the fruits. So were the flowers. All the sick become well, and people who were in disharmony become harmonious. So many, many undescribable, auspicious things happen in his kingdom. The king, to his delight, unhesitatingly gave the name Siddhartha. Others call him young Prince Shakyamuni because he was always sitting like a saint. He always motionless, sitting under a tree when everybody's playing and frolicking and doing things of kids of his age. He wasn't doing any of that. He was just always sitting there, often saving worms when they were plowing festival or whatever. He was amazing kind to every single curly creatures. And so they called him Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni was a nickname given by people even before he showed any sign of becoming a monk, because he was so peaceful and so always sitting still like a sage, So because Shakya is his family name, they call him Shakyamuni. Muni means sage. There were many other names like Gautama. Gautama is his very ancestral earlier name of his family called Gautama. Gautama Buddha or Shakyamuni Buddha or Prince Siddhartha, Tathagata, Sugata, the enlightened one. All different names, of course, they are attributed to him. Anyway, age 29, as was prophesied by the soothsayers, he didn't really feel comfortable in the palace because his father kept him like a prisoner, wouldn't let him go anywhere in fear of him abandoning the palace and so on. He said, I want to go out town. And father made a special request to the city or mayors or whatever people were looking after the city to make sure the city was clean and well paved and looked immaculately good and impressive, so that the prince will not be depressed by seeing the nature of the social life of illness, sickness, whatever. He didn't want to see any of these to be visible on the royal kind of excursion. It is said the excursion was planned for 4 days, and then after each of the days excursion, he witnessed how beautifully kept his city was. But miraculously, he had the sighting of an aging person, sick person, dead person, and then the 4th day he saw a monk. After realizing that how everyone are inevitably going to die, even if they're going to live fairly long, they're going to suffer. They're vulnerable to catch any of the diseases and can die any age. But even if they live long, but they become very old and frail and uselessly suffering every moment thereafter. So when he saw this inevitable nature of all that are born, it is said that Buddha made young Prince Siddhartha was very, very saddened. When he returned to palace, his whole perception changes. The palace, all the queens, Yashodhara, as well as all the concubines and all the palace courtesans, and all the beautiful things. Everyone looked like a walking skeleton. He couldn't see any beautiful person because he had this amazing realization of the inevitable nature of the death and old age and sickness with everyone. He was so returned like an injured deer. He was limping. He couldn't taste food good, and he doesn't have any more passion and motivation to do any of the things that. And then he just therefore decided to make a decision. He need to take action, we can call it. He sought the father's consent, which was not received, no, from his wife. But she requested, should he leave the palace, she should take her with him, so that she can also still be his companion, and so that she can be. So of course he said, no, this will be too hard for you. It's not for you. This is not appropriate also for his journey, and so he received no consent from either his father or his wife. But to their I would say disappointment, he then escaped on age 29 with his attendant Chandaka, who he woke up in the middle of the night, which is never an occasion, never happens. He woke up his attendant Chandaka, and asked him to go and get ready the horse Kantaka. And Chandaka is one of those people who also shared his birthday. So Chandaka refused to go, and he knew that this is not very royal to leave in the middle of the night. And then he said, look, you've been such a good attendant all these years. This is the last time you will serve me. Please go and get the horse ready. We must go. And so finally they left. The palace was completely guarded. All the 4 gates was completely locked. Soldiers were put in. The father and the uncles were very, very suspicious that there's every danger of the prince deserting them. So they almost knew that was happening. But for some reason, all the palace guards fell asleep. Even if they were woken up, I don't think that he could have stopped, because it says that the horse Kantaka flew. And with the aid of the 4 guardians came, and each of them lift one hoof of the horse in the sky of the palace, and they all went zoom like a Superman. Buddha was a Superman, of course, and he just went, and then he reached a place called, and that's about Lumbini, a couple of us doing there. But then he goes to a place called Kesaria. Kesaria is named after where Buddha cut his own hair, because that's the word kes comes from. Kesaria means the palace, stupa of holy hair, And so there, after he reached there, which is the place, Kesaria Falls is not a major kingdom. It's probably part of ancient what you call Lichavi, because it's very near to Vaishali. Anyway, there he's cut his hair and returned, took his royal ornaments and clothing, gave it to the attendant, asked him to take back to the father and the family, so that they will at least know that what he has done, and return the horse and return the clothing. And his attendant also said, no, I will not return with all. I'm going to be punished, and this will be so sad for me to go without you anyway. I'm going to stay with you. No, he said, if you want to come back, that's fine, but you got to take the horse and all this royal clothing and ornaments to my father, so that he knows that what I'm doing. And finally, the Chandaka had no choice but to honor that, as he took back. The horses actually neighed throughout the whole journey back. It just didn't like any bit. And then horse, as soon as they reached the town, city, on the outskirts of the town, he died. The horse died. Horse just said enough. And so Chandaka returned without the horse, without the Siddhartha, and just with a few of the royal clothing. And father and uncle were so furious, so sad, so depressed. And they were all worried how much the prince will suffer in the forest. And they rebuked the Chandaka for taking him that far and this far. But so the Chandaka had to suffer all the insult. Anyway, his father and 4 brothers, 4 uncles, sent each of them 100 men, together with lots of riches, clothing, horses, I don't know, maybe camels, food, all so they were all sent to pursue Siddhartha and make sure that they can provide all these things for his well-being. But of course, Prince Siddhartha has by that time reached far into the Magadha kingdom. And then it is Magadha kingdom is where present Bodh Gaya is situated. Magadha is the state. I think those days is the name of a kingdom. In India had many kingdoms, Magadha kingdom, Litsavi, Shakyas, and so on. So Magadha is where Bodh Gaya is situated. And so Buddha then having renounced his royal life, he adopted. Some people say that miraculously some local devas, gods, offer him some robes that are suitable for a mendicant. So Buddha dawned on that, and then he lived like a mendicant, and then he studied and learned to meditate from Alara and a Rudra or somebody. I think the second name I can't remember properly. These two were very prominent Indian meditation spiritual master who were really highly claimed. They both could do the meditation or willy calm abiding samadhi very well indeed. He learned them very fast, but then later on his meditation and realization surpasses both of his teachers, and they could teach nothing. And so he knew that his meditation is a bit special than that. And then anyway, he went on. And by that time, he was already accompanied by the 500 people that his father and uncle sent. And Buddha said, I don't need all of you here. Please go away. Take all the things they send yourself. I don't need any of them. You please go away. And they said, we will be punished if we abandon you here without us. Please let us stay. They were so inspired with his discipline. They really wanted to follow what he was doing. Buddha said, it's not proper for all of you to be here. Just stay one from each of the 100. You stay here as my companion. Not that I need any, but because you insist you stay. So that is the makeup of the 5 mendicants. 5 mendicants came from the 1 member from each of the 4 brothers and his father. 5 of them were kept, and the rest of the 495 were discharged, and asked them they can have the horses, the camels, food, don't have to go back to Kapilavastu if they're afraid. Anyway, that's that. That's how the 5 mendicant was meant to be his attendant, but there wasn't anything to attend because Siddhartha would refuse to eat, drink, do anything. So he had no necessities. He didn't have a shopping list, and he didn't have a gift card, or he doesn't have anything to say. So they don't have to do anything. So they also then meditated around him. So this all happened around presently when you go to Bodh Gaya, there is a cave where the Buddha meditated. Theravadins unmistakably recognize that place where Buddha meditated. But Tibetans always get a few things wrong. One of them is they think he meditated somewhere else, not in the cave. I don't know where that got from. It looks like Buddha did meditate, could have meditated more in a cave than in the middle of nowhere. When his life became very difficult, the asceticism, he was very tired and exhausted and emaciated and many reduced to skeleton. But his meditation was so advanced that he didn't feel no hunger, no thirst, no craving for anything. But when he did wake up from his deep meditative trance, he wobbled and he felt it was, then he realized maybe I have neglected my well-being a bit too much. And as he went to search for some water, which is the river Niranjana, when on his way. There he met Sujata, the Brahmin girl Sujata. Sujata means well born. She has been brought up a very wealthy Brahmin family, and she's been told by someone in her spiritual community that she will meet enlightened one day. So she should pray and meditate and stay very pure and become his disciple one day. Anyway, so she had every sign that enlightened one is going to show up soon. So she milked 500 cows, and the milk of the 500 cows, she fed it to 100 cows. And then she milked the 100 cows, she fed that milk to 110 cows. Then she milked the 10 cows and milked the 10 cows, and then gave to one last cow. And then she milked that cow, and she made a special rice milk pudding. And when everything was ready, and all of a sudden she bumped into the Prince Siddhartha, who was really, really emaciated, looking very weak, and so on. And she knew without any hesitation, this is the prince. This is the sort of enlightened one. She unhesitatingly offered the bowl of golden bowl. It's like a golden bowl of rice pudding, milk pudding, yeah? And Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, this is now just within a couple of days of his enlightenment, He accepted that, and of course his holy body become completely restored to his youth and elegance and enlightened attributes, which his holy body already endowed. And so his 5 friends, it is said, have seeing this become disgusted. They also were really observing some strict rules. They were maybe fasting a lot, and they thought he lost his way. They will become very sort of almost like saying like he breached their trust or something. That's what people say these days. Anyway, so they were disappointed that he will not stay thin and weak, and so they just abandoned him. They left him in disgust. So then Prince Siddhartha, Gautama, then he wandered around, and then he just know that maybe this isn't the way to go. So therefore, he definitely start taking little meals every day, and then he realized, where should I now go and do my final meal? He knew that his enlightenment is not far off, and then he knew that all the past Buddhas, and as will be future Buddhas, all sat on that very one seat, the diamond seat called the Vajra Asana. And then he knew that he needed to go to that. Then he crossed the river Ganges, river Niranjana, and then went and sat under the fig tree called people tree, which wasn't called Bodhi tree by then. It's called people tree. It's a big fig tree. So at that time, the place, the whole area is called Gaya, but there was no Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya was named after the Buddha attaining enlightenment under the tree. Anyway, so that's Bodh Gaya is where he attained enlightenment. So some people think the Vesak, the full moon in Vesak, is in a 5-fold enlightened activities: the birth, enlightenment, and passing away, as well as conception, as well as conquest of the Mara, which I would correct them both very clearly. Why? The birth, enlightenment, and passing away all fall on the Vesak full moon. The other 2 could not be. Why? The conception, conception could not have fallen on the Vesak, because if that's the case, then he has to stay in mother's womb 12 months. so that's out of question. And another is conquest of the Mara. Conquest Mara is said to have happened on the dusk of the day before the full moon. So dusk and its enlightenment happened on a dawn, which is full moon, and the dusk is not the dusk of the full moon. So dusk has to be the day before. So therefore, day before Vesak is the night where he conquers the Maras. It's shown to be conquers Maras, but the Buddha conquered all the 4 Maras a long time ago. He's just showing. So anyway, But having said that, we mustn't think that Buddha's enlightenment activity occurs finitely on one day or no other. His enlightened activity is constantly happening all the time. His enlightened qualities and activities and power and blessing of that is happening all the time, not only then, but since then. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in Dharma. Buddha's setting the will of Dharma and all of those. Buddha did not just setting the will of Dharma in Varanasi. He set the will of Dharma ever since he conceived in mother's womb. His mother could hear the young child in her tummy teaching her. She straight away took on the vows of her chastity and observed the 8 precepts through the rest of her life. She was already hearing his teaching. So we can't say Buddha taught here this and then he then for 3 weeks he put his feet up and went to the beaches or something. Buddha's enlightenment activities are constantly happening. So anyway, he attained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya. And that is actually the full moon in Vesak. Vesak is the name of the month. It's not the name of the date. The whole month is made out of 31 days. And the Saga Dawa is a Tibetan word translation of Vesak. It's Saga, which is usually the 3rd spring month of the northern hemisphere. So it's which always falls on May, full moon in May. There's no room for confusing happening in June, like Tibetan calendars seem to entertain. So that's what the Theravadan tradition of observing consistently on the full moon of May has to be really universalized. Well, Indian government tried to do that in 1956 when after a few years of attaining independent, Indian government with some good leadership decided to host a 2500th anniversary of Buddha's enlightenment birth, passing away in New Delhi, and during that they invited so many important dignitaries, including the young Dalai Lama and Panchen Lama, who were state guests of India by then. That is the India, not the British India. And they celebrated not only the birthday of Buddha in a big way, but they made a resolution at the conference that all the participating countries, it seems Tibet did not follow it, all the countries agreed to honor the Vesak as a public holiday. And so in Indian calendar, as well as countries like Nepal, who are not Buddhist country by at all, they're majority Hindu country, two of the most Hindu nations in Nepal and India, as well as Malaysia and Indonesia, who are majority Islam. They also agreed to give public holiday on Vesak. So Vesak is a almost public holiday in at least a good 9 to 12 countries in Southeast Asia. So that was the Indian government's initiative in 1956. And then Indian government made a special attempt to build railroads linking all the Buddhist circuit of pilgrimage spots. So you can see, with the exception of Lumbini, because Lumbini falls in Nepal. But they brought a railway line as close as Nepalese border called Naugar. I know that the Naugar is much nearer from Lumbini than is now Tanwa. The Indian actually government tried very hard to connect all the places by railroad in honor of the Buddha's enlightenment activities, and also for the tourism and archaeology and science and whatever the case might be. So Indian government have done a bit to promote Buddhist kind of sacred sites from 1956 onwards. Anyway, going back to the story of the life of Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, and the night before he attained enlightenment, he was attacked by the Maras, and the Maras first used force. They got so jealous they could proceed through their contaminated clairvoyance that Buddha would attain enlightenment, and that meant their influence on the world through the dark will not be so strong. So they really wanted to attack him, and so they did. And at night, when they attack with using aggression first, whatever harm they try to cause, they threw burning boulders on the Buddha, molten, huge cauldrons of burning molten bronze, and various cannons and spear and arrows, whatever they use, any weapon to hurl towards him, they all turned into blossoms and beautified the whole area instead of harming slightest to the Buddha's body. Hence the Maras were conquered, and then Maras then said, "Oh, maybe I can seduce him." And then he used his 5 beautiful girls, his daughters, all young and beautiful. They tried to send him to seduce his meditation, distract. And of course, they all unfortunately turned into old, frail-looking hags. Only a minute ago they were young, beautiful girls, and all of a sudden they turned into old hags, covered in gray hairs and wrinkle and dribbling and whatnot. And so, just through the power of the Buddha's meditation, of course, I don't think they stayed that way. that would be such a devastating defeat. But it looked that way, So anyway, so that's called conquest of Mara. Also happened in Bodh Gaya night before his enlightenment. Okay, because some Tibetan biography says, "Oh, this is 5-fold holy day." Night of conception and night also the day of his conquest of Mara. Nobody stays in mother's womb 12 months, let alone 10 months. Buddha is the only one who stayed 10 months in mother's womb, never 12 months. So that's out of the question. Anyway, attaining enlightenment, then Buddha was his body levitated 7 times the height of the tree under which he sat, and the whole world again, like his birth, shook 6 different ways. And this earthquake was not the kind of devastating earthquake. That's a blissful earthquake. Everybody felt so good by the earth tremble. The earth sort of quake that they all felt was so blissful, and something incredible good is happening. And that usually marks something amazing, like the enlightenment of Buddha. And in that night is also full moon. Remember, full moon, and then the light was so bright in those whole world that that is the night when Ananda was born. Everybody was depressed in Kapilavastu, Kapilavastu could be said to be the city of depression because they lost the prince and they got really depressed. But at that night, Ananda was born, coinciding this brilliant earthquake and a bright light, and they named after the joy they all felt, called Ananda. Ananda means joyful. Everybody become joyful for a change after 6 long years of what do you call, really devastation, sadness, and missing their prince and husband and son, and there weren't anyone who wasn't depressed. But moment Ananda was born, so they gave the name for the bright light and happiness they all had. Of course, that was more signaling that they didn't know at that time it was the night that Buddha got enlightened, because they have no way of knowing. It's pretty far away. Anyway, then it is said after attaining enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, then he didn't have his companions there. His companion deserted him, so he was on his own. He definitely was a solitary realizer. And his teachers weren't around, his attendants weren't around. Maybe there were some others around, but we don't know who they were. In any case, then he spoke this profound verse, saying that even though I have realized this very nectar that is peaceful and transcendental and profound and uncontrived and beyond thought and perfection of wisdom. But yet, if I were to speak about my realization there appears to be very few who could understand. So I should rather stay in silence in forest. So for 7 weeks he didn't teach, but yet he spoke that first very profound verse, which very much a summation of the entire path, actually, ultimate truth point of view. But people don't regard that as an actual teaching of the Dharma. They think he only taught in Varanasi later on. Anyway, conventionally, that's the belief that he didn't teach 7 weeks. And then exactly after 7 weeks, after his enlightenment, which is on the full moon of Vesak, the day that Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma actually happens exactly 49 days after his enlightenment, which is the day of turning the wheel of Dharma. So when Buddha was dwelling in the meditation, during those 7 weeks, he had incredible surge of memory of all his past life came, and he could see and know, and incredible store of knowledge came to him as a sign of his enlightenment. And he could see the future and so on and so forth. And then he, while he was pondering what to do, because he said he won't teach to anybody, all of a sudden came Brahma and Indra, the two gods. Both of them offered 1,000 spoked golden wheel, that's Brahma, and Indra offered him a very special conch shell that was swirling on clockwise, unlike that, anti-clockwise. Usually most of the conch is anti-clockwise, but this one was clockwise. Because what is anti-clockwise conch shell? And anti-clockwise you can't hold with your right hand like this. You have to do it with left hand like this. So they offered that, which is considered to be very rare of a conch shell, and asked him to teach. So then Buddha consented to teach, but when he surveyed whom he might be teaching it to, he first thought he should teach to his two teachers, who himself felt very indebted to. And when he surveyed through his meditation, they too has just passed away a week ago. So they couldn't make it to be that Buddha's disciple. But then he said, maybe I should go to meet my 5 friends who deserted me. And then he realized they are wandering in Varanasi. And then he miraculously traveled there and then wanted to meet them. But when they sighted him, the Prince Siddhartha, they said, here comes Gautama, the gluttonous one. And he said, we are not going to honor him. We're not going to offer seat or bring water or anything, show any courtesy. If he wanted to join, let him sit. Otherwise, just don't show any of those courtesy. He doesn't deserve it. He's the one who breached our trust. And they made that rule among themselves. And the Prince Siddhartha, by this already enlightened one, not that they didn't know, otherwise he was already enlightened one, and then walked towards them. The nearer he became, the more radiant and amazing presence they felt. They couldn't bear his presence, was so overwhelmingly positive. They just all got up and broke all their rules and bent to get water and offer seat and exchange sort of courtesy and then ask him how he was and all the rest. And then at that time, then Prince Siddhartha corrected them not to call him as Mr. Siddhartha, because that's what they were calling him, Mr. Siddhartha. Ayusmat Siddhartha. Buddha said, I'm no longer Siddhartha, I'm the Blessed One. So please don't call me Ayusmat Siddhartha. So that's how conversation started there, and then he taught. In that conversation, because Buddha's teaching was never a formal teaching setting, always conversation. The conversation between him and 1 or 2 or 5 mendicants in this case, that's all. The conversation become teachings. There isn't a sign saying Siddhartha is going to teach the first wheel of Dharma on the 4 Noble Truths in Varanasi, 3 p.m. Saturday. There's no such thing. Nor was any of the discourses that happened. All happened out of the blue, and someone asks a question, or then that whole conversation become beautiful teachings. He was able to weave the teaching in such a way. That's no wonder why people find it very difficult to listen to someone's talk more than 45 minutes, because because it's not a conversation. Whereas in conversation can go a couple of hours and you still do not get bored. So that's why all the sutras, the discourses are really dialogues. It's never a monologue, because all the lectures usually is just monologuing, just one talking, everybody listening. In those days, it was always the dialogues. Word sutra actually means summation. Summation of what was the strands of thoughts, because sutta means string. Strings of thoughts were summarized and synthesized in that dialogue. Anyway, so Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma, taught the Dharma, Four Noble Truths, telling that his way is, because remember his friends deserted him, thinking he wasn't keeping his vows or something. Buddha said, my way is a middle way, neither falling into eternalism nor nihilism. And so he's somewhat justified in explaining why he started eating, because his body wasn't eating. His body is the only vehicle, and it looked pretty weak and thin, and he therefore needed to do that. Not that he was justifying that, but also that became the central theme of his teaching. Buddha's teaching is a middle way, neither falling into philosophically nihilism or eternalism, nor in behaviorally one should not become too fanatically practice extreme asceticism, self-mortification, nor indulge into extravagant indulgence. So behaviorally, from the conduct, from the view, as well as a compassion point of view, as well as also meditation point of view, that all should be based on the theme of the middle way. So the entire teaching of the Buddha is based around the middle way philosophy, this day's middle way philosophy. Anyway, so that's so when place he turned the wheel of Dharma is called, these days called Varanasi. Varanasi is one of the oldest cities. Varanasi is named after two rivers, Varuna and Asi. This confluence of these two rivers, not as big as Ganges, because these days, if you look at the map, you can see Varuna and Asi. But most people don't know it's to do with that combination, euphonic combination of Varuna and Asi. Then the word name of the city was coined after the two rivers. And quite a lot of the time, all the names of towns are usually named after something. In this case, it's named after the two rivers, Varuna and Asi. But Sarnath is not is outskirts of Varanasi. Called actual name spot where Buddha was born. Buddha taught the wheel of Dharma is Risipatana. Risipatana means the grove where the saints failed or saints descended. But actually, it became a deer park, because wherever there are saints, they say they usually have many deers, because deers is an incredible creature. They love peace and the nature. And whoever is practicing peace, the deers come nearby and sit and listen to the peace. as peace was audible, They could sense something was on. They can see what's the dinner. So anyway, when Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma in Risipatana to the 5 mendicants, he wasn't teaching just to them. He was also teaching to the deers. Buddha was teaching every time, even though outwardly it looked like a half a dozen people or 5 monks or whatever. He was teaching always to gods, demigods, devas, nagas, yakshas, gandharvas, not to mention deer and all the creatures there. Because he was able to teach in every language, every accent, every level of intelligence, accordingly tailored to the need of every sentient. This is one of the incredible qualities of Buddha, was he was able to teach in a language and communicate according to the liking and suitability of every level of intelligence. So to say the Buddha only taught in Pali and not in Sanskrit or vice versa is the dry philosophical Buddhist scholars who know nothing about the actual qualities of Buddha, who are just using their little miserable research, saying the Buddha could have never taught more than one language, and saying one is authentic, the other one is corrupted. This sort of analysis is not very helpful, to say the least. Quality of Buddha was he was able to teach every sentient being. So to say the five mendicant is the only student is a really understatement. Five mendicant were the primary students, but otherwise there were many, many. If you read at the end of the Dhamma Chakrapravartana Sutra, which is the first, it says the gods, demigods, yakshas, gandharvas, all delighted. It doesn't say the five mendicant got enlightened, nobody was there. It says everybody got delighted. So that shows that Buddha's audience is always inconceivable number of sentient beings. I'm sure maybe we were bugs and worms those days. So no wonder why we still have some Dharma happening. So Buddha was teaching it for the benefit of all sentient beings. Even though primarily he was speaking to the five mendicants, it is said that during the first couple of sentences after Buddha spoke, Kaudinya, the senior most of the five mendicants, got arhathood straight away. And the suit followed, everyone else followed suit. The Mahanama, Aswajita, Aniruddha, all of that, Gavampit, all of them attained arhathood within the first couple of hours after hearing this discourse from the Buddha. That's called lion's roar. Buddha need not to say much. Some merely seeing him completely changed. They don't know how, but it did. So enlightened qualities of Buddha is incredibly powerful and powerful influence to everyone who heard and met the Buddha. And so therefore, when we these days think about Varanasi, we go to the place called Saranath, and there's a little hillock where Buddha met the five mendicants, And so Varanasi is actually not a place where the Buddha spent a long time. That's the first historical place where Buddha first taught the sermon. So taught the first sermon, but actually Buddha spent more time in place called Shravasti, 25 rainy season retreats. So when we talk about Kapilavastu, Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, and Varanasi, now we are talking about Shravasti. Shravasti is the place where Buddha spent 25 rainy season retreat. Why? Because Buddha, after teaching the first sermon, he went to Magadha. And Magadha is the where he first meditated and got abandoned by his friends and so on. There he then met King Bimbisara. Bimbisara is the father of Ajatasattu, who became his disciple. And then while he was teaching in Venuvana, this place called Venuvana is Bamboo Grove. This is also quite frequently mentioned in the sutras. The place where Buddha was teaching was Venuvana. Venu means bamboo, Vana means grove. When we say Jetavana in Shravasti, Jeta means Prince Jeta, and Vana means his grove. So in the bamboo grove, the king Bimbisara offered the Buddha. He wanted to offer him a palace or some nice place to live. Buddha would refuse. I need to live in the bush. So then he offered the bamboo grove, very beautiful, and made a special pond because it's a very hot place. And Buddha was teaching there, and it is there that everybody was so busy and hurrying. And then the very wealthy merchant from Shravasti called Anathapindaka, who had traveled there for business thing, and then he just bumped into this commotion happening in Rajgriha, unlike others, and they say, "Oh, what is it? Oh, the enlightened one is coming for a special dana. We're offering this." Everybody was doing incredible, and then the Anathapindaka, as soon as he heard the name of the Buddha, he just felt something incredible. Then he said he must too go and watch and witness or whatever. Then when he sat on the sermon or watched the dana, usually all sermons goes around the dana, Where there's a food, there's a good mood to teach. so, so the little teachings happened after the dana, and then the Anathapindaka heard the Buddha and couldn't believe his little ears, and he couldn't believe what a wonderful, wondrous thing. He straight away bowed down to the Buddha, incredible fortune, good on him, and he begged the Buddha to accept him as a disciple, requested, invited him to Shravasti. And of course, Shravasti is a little far away, even these days, let alone those days. Buddha sort of agreed to come, but he first said, I will send my disciple, Shariputra. Because Shariputra was only second to the Buddha, Shariputra was so highly revered. Because Shariputra and Moggallanaputra were both converted into Buddhism in Venuvana. The Bamboo Grove. The Bamboo Grove is very famous because there quite a lot of people got converted, not to mention Anathapindika, King Bimbisara, Shariputra, Moggallanaputra, everybody got converted in the Bamboo Grove, And then Shariputra went ahead to make preparation for to Shravasti to build a special place for the Buddha to be invited and create a Sangha home there, Because the Venuvana is actually very nice in the bush, but it was a fairly small place. If you go there, there's not much room for many people. And then Anathapindaka definitely wanted to try his best to create a nice oasis for his Sangha. So he went home, asked the Prince Jeta to sell his beautiful park, which Prince Jeta refused, saying, no way, nobody can buy my beautiful park. Even if I were to sell, you can't afford it, and I would not sell. He sort of really condescending. And Anathapindaka said, oh no, I can afford it. Whatever you ask, I'll pay for it. He said, really? And then Jeta said yes, and then Anathapindaka said, Jeta said, if you can completely cover the floor of my god, my prince, with golden coins, and not a single space left, then I will sell it for that. And Anathapindaka said, yes, I will do just that. And so he opened his treasury and just completely, covered the whole Prince Jeta's garden, gold, and there was just a small portion that was not left, that was not enough. And then the Prince Jeta was so impressed. He said, that one I offer. So he offered a little piece of land with that. And then, anyway, so that's how Anathapindaka bought the Jetavana, built incredible temple and vihara, you can call it, not a palace really, vihara suited to the Buddha and his Sangha too. That's why Buddha was persuaded to stay and visit there and stay 25 years. So majority of the Buddhist sutras were taught there. Buddha taught for 46 years. And 25 years he spent in Shravasti. So Shravasti is, if you look at that volume of time, is the place where Buddha spent most, and most of the sermons were given there. So Shravasti has every reason to be really significantly recognized and important. It is in a historical text, but the Buddhists have, it's a little bit out of the way, unless it's what is out of the way is because Bodh Gaya has taken over the very Buddhist kind of central place to go. Some people don't go to any place but just go to Bodh Gaya. Others go to few places but still don't get to go to a place like Shravasti. But Shravasti is relatively convenient to go these days. You can fly to Lucknow and then catch a bus or car, or only about 4 or 5 hours. So not really difficult to reach. And so Shravasti has Shravasti is very, very important in the sense Shravasti is the way Buddha converted Angulimala, Kissa-Gotami, and you can see the huge temple of Angulimala there in Shravasti. as well as many other places, and where the Buddha taught most of the sutras, like the Diamond Cutter Sutra was taught in Shravasti. Sometimes they say, "Oh, Buddha taught the Heart Sutra in Vulture's Peak, Rajgriha," but when you read the Diamond Cutter Sutra, it was taught in Shravasti. So what are we talking about? Buddha taught all the Perfection Wisdom Sutta in Vulture's Peak and not elsewhere? No, Buddha taught everything everywhere. So to say that he didn't teach this one here, he only taught that one here, he started that teaching here, but he didn't finish it there, not that kind of thing. How can you ever judge Buddha's, even just looking merely, looking at you is complete teachings. So we cannot assess Buddha's qualities, even his physical protuberance. They say nobody can see the Buddha's protuberance, no matter how close they are, because it's one of those special characteristics nobody can see. So to say the Buddha didn't teach this here, taught that one here, even though it says that this Diamond Cutter Sutra was taught in Shravasti, it doesn't mean he didn't teach elsewhere. He was able to teach simultaneously everywhere, same time, to many different audience, whether they have the same title or the topic or not. He teaches all the time. So in any case, of course, sutras have recorded as to where that sutra was taught, who were there, who were the interlocutor. When we talk about the interlocutor of the sutras, in Heart Sutra, it is Shariputra. In the Diamond Cutter Sutra, it's Subhuti. Remember, who is Subhuti? Subhuti is Anathapindaka's brother. Anathapindaka is a very, very astute businessman, a wealthy merchant. When he returned home from Rajgriha as a merchant, his brother Subhuti couldn't believe. He says, "What the kind of the prince the Buddha would have been? My brother is changed person like this." He was usually such a I don't know what he was, but he says, "Look, he's changed. He gave everything to the Buddha," and he couldn't believe. I must see the man. And then when Subhuta met the Buddha, of course, Subhuta had 100 million reasons why his brother has done the right thing. And then Subhuti became the main interlocutor in all the Mahayana sutras, particularly Perfection of Wisdom. With the exception of Heart Sutra, he is the one who's always asking questions to the Buddha. And Subhuti was considered to be a very ordinary monk at the beginning because he wasn't interested, devout like his brother became. But later on, he was so sharp and intelligent, he could see the truth and wisdom of the Buddha. And then he was the one who asked all the right questions. And the Buddha answered, of course, exactly the questions begged. And so Subhuti, that you see in many Mahayana sutras, is Anathapindaka's brother. They're all in the family, so to speak, you can call it. And then the Buddha has his own story. That's the Buddha's own chief attendant is Ananda. I must come back to Ananda, because Ananda, how does Ananda features? Of course, Ananda, after Buddha returned home, when he's met his father, many people in Kapilavastu became his disciple. And then Ananda is one of them. And Ananda became his, there were many others who became Buddha's attendant prior to Ananda, but later on Ananda became the sort of the last 25 years of the Buddha's life. Attendant was him. And Ananda featured very important. Ananda was a younger brother of a Devadatta. Devadatta is elder brother who was notoriously became a rival to the Buddha. Even though he became disciple of the Buddha, learned everything, but he was so jealous of his cousin. He says, "Look, we are the same Shakya kingdom boys. Why should Siddhartha get all this, respect, not me?" And because he meditated, and he had reached quite high levels of realization. But he didn't have any of the 32 marks or any of the minor marks on his body, let alone in his mind. So he was really wanted try very hard how to compete his cousin. He emptied his treasury and gave it to the silversmith, the goldsmith, asked them to do tattoo on his palms and soles of feet to create the golden wheels, and on his feet and his palms, which was excruciatingly painful, and it was very uncomfortable, even to say the least. But yet he wanted to impress people. He too has these things. Of course, he went through great length of trying to compete the Buddha, try to assassinate him, try to divide us, cause schism, and then influence the king Ajatasattu, the son, prince of the king Bimbisara, and did all kinds of awful things. So that's one cousin. Another cousin is Ananda. Ananda became very important. So now let's go back down to Vaishali. The Vaishali is one of the ancient cities of Ditsavi kingdom, and it was one of the biggest cities in India those days. That's why the name is Vaishali. Vaishali means splendid city. It is also considered place of Indian democracy. They say Vaishali is the city of democracy, because Buddha taught the Sangha, rules of the Vinaya was really, really democracy. It is not appointed like these days in certain traditions by reincarnation or golden urn or someone's dreams or someone's nephew they appoint the head or successor. In Buddha's actual original Sangha, it's whoever is senior in his discipline, in his meditation, in his realization, is honored as the abbot, and is unanimously recognized by everyone. So that's why Vaishali is the city where the democracy was born. True Buddhist Sangha is democracy, based on everybody's equal, not by birthright, not by the family, not by kind of mysterious stories and all this. You end up having 3 candidates, having conflict, all this endless conflict that we have in Tibet and Buddhism. This is never Buddhism. This is a royalty. This is not Buddhism. Buddhist Sangha has completely abandoned royalty. But somehow the royalty was reintroduced back in some countries, which was the very thing that Buddha himself renounced. Anyway, so going back to Vaishali, where Ananda was the main chief attendant. He went to the Buddha, please, your aunties, Prajapati Gautami has arrived with 500 Shakya girls. They travel all the way from Kapilavastu on foot, and they're exhausted and they're tired. They came to see you and they beg for your blessings to be ordained as a bhikkhuni. And not that this was the first time they requested, but he said, please, you got to give it this time, because she's your almost like second to only your mother, but she worked much harder than your mother. She nursed you, she cared for you, and you should really. Anyway, so Buddha was persuaded by Ananda. That's why in Vaishali, the big stupa is called Ananda Stupa, because Ananda actually passed away near a bank of river Ganges nearby there. And the main stupa of Ananda was built in Vaishali. Even though Vaishali's place regarded as place where the monkeys offered honey to the Buddha, because Buddha was so revered by whoever come to know him, even the animals knew who was he. And the monkeys are not known for offering honey to human. They usually snatch your little nuts and fruits from your hand. They would not bring honey. But some mysterious thing was that even monkey offer honey to the Buddha. Elephant bow down to the Buddha in Vaishali. And of course, the Vaishali is where it's nowadays recognized as place of birth of bhikkhuni ordination, started there. And also Vaishali is remembered as a place where Buddha announced his passing away. He said, in 3 months' time, I'll pass away in the kingdom of Mallas. Please inform them. And then there again, Ananda being cousin, he says, what the hell you want to go there for, type of thing. He says, why you want to go in such a miserable place? This is not your follower. And it's so far away, and you don't know anybody there, type of thing. Anyway, Buddha said, no, I know exactly where I want to go. So Buddha didn't want to pass away in any of the 7 kingdoms, that he has very close connection, because he knew they will fight over his relics and create a huge drama, and he wanted to pass away in a neutral land where that kind of thing will not be happen. Anyway, so then and the Ananda did not request the Buddha to live long. He was instead saying where he should or shouldn't pass away, which is later on he got a big belting over that. Ananda was charged with 8 major mistakes, and one of them was for requesting the woman to be ordained, and another was, could you believe it? Another was not requesting him to live long, and another was giving him dirty water, and so on and so forth. Anyway, Ananda got really, really big belting. Anyway, in the end, Buddha goes to to the Kushinagar, and there Kushinagar people, Malla kingdom, they were really very happy to receive the Buddha coming there, but they were a little bit sort of shocked that they have to be placed where he has to die. Anyway, so Buddha asked his attendant to arrange a special couch where he could lie down between 2 sala trees, so that he can face the west, his back into the east, feet south, and head north. So that's the reclining posture. There he passed away into nirvana, giving very strict instructions how his remains should be, who should set fire to his body, and who should distribute the relics, and so on. Buddha gave very clear instructions about this, and there he passed away on the very day, what we call 15th of the Vesak month, full moon. So he's passing away, happened there, but his would be the successor, Mahakashapa, was not with him. Mahakashapa was meant to set the fire on the Buddha's holy body, but he was far away somewhere. He couldn't be there in time, and no matter how many people tried to set the funeral, his holy body in fire, it wouldn't catch fire. Anyway, then Mahakashapa had to travel miraculously to cut time, to insert time. And when Mahakashapa arrived, he didn't even have to torch the holy body. It just burned itself, and then the whole holy body just lifted up another 7 times the height of the tree, and burned into the sky without anybody having to actually torch it. And of course, incredible scene was perceived by all the devotees, and his whole body has reduced into incredible body of holy relics, sharira, we call it, sharira, which has been clearly instructed to the Brahmin called Drona, how to distribute and look after the remains of the Buddha, so that none of the 7 kingdoms, including Malla, got into dispute over the body or remains, but instead they were taught how to honor his body by building stupas. So therefore there are 8 stupas that are attributed to birth all the way to passing away in nirvana. Each of the stupa has slightly different shape, although the base and the top be the same. The middle portion is always different. Like the Lumbini one is a lotus hip stupa. The Bodh Gaya one is Bodhi stupa. And then another place I forgot to mention, which is the last one I mentioned, is that what he calls Sankasa. Sankasa is a place where Buddha descended from heaven. Because he went from 1 year rainy season retreat, he took leave from Sravasti and told the monks that for 3 months he will go to heaven of 33 realms, where to teach his mother the Abhidharma. And there he indeed did. He went there and stayed 3 months. You wouldn't believe how much people missed him. Buddha gave them a sandalwood statue in his place, and they all worshipped him, and they all felt the same blessing, but still they really wish they wanted to see the real one. So when they then sent Moggallanaputra asking Buddha to come back, we miss you so much. And then exactly, Buddha promised to come back on the 15th of the 9th lunar month, and then a week later he then returned to the world in a town called Sankasa. Town called Sankasa is one of the 8 main Buddhist sites, and that is also near Lucknow. It's in the bush. It's still recognizable because there is some little site, and they've discovered some ruins, as much as explained by the very famous Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang, who has visited in 7th century all over India, visited all the Buddhist sites. He has written a book called Journey to the West, and the Journey to the West is became the very base of the drama series of the Journey to the West in Japan. Of the monkey magic. The monkey magic, the monkey magic book was based on the Journey to the West of Xuanzang. In 623 he went to India, and he spent so many years on foot, coming to and coming back and studied there. He became a great lecturer in ancient University of Nalanda. He becomes most celebrated translator of Chinese Buddhism, in Buddhism from Chinese into Mandarin, even though there were people like Kumarajiva and Iching and Faxian, others who came before him, but nevertheless Xuanzang became most celebrated translator, and so he wrote most of these Chinese monks. Chinese were really good at writing down every details, and his travelogue became most useful piece of writing that was translated into 1800 into English, and then from that English archaeologist was able to trace all the Buddhist sites based on those books. So a place like Sankasa and Lumbini and all of those would otherwise buried in rubble, we would have not found. But Sir Cunningham and his team of archaeologists, British India, did a good job. British India, of course, did whatever it did, but it also did some good. It set up railway stations, railway in India, and discovered some of the Buddhist sites in India, and taught Indians good English. So they also succeed to convert quite a few million dry, hard Hindus into Christians. So you can see the British sort of leave their marks in India. But British also helped to really discover quite a lot of the Buddhist sites on a scientific interest, Scientific. I'm sure those people like Cunningham were not ordinary people. They were maybe born Buddhist bodhisattvas. To incredible meticulous care was given to find those places, document everything, that we today can just read those and go to those places. And he was helped by Xuanzang's writing, Xuanzang's writing. And Xuanzang went to India because Buddha himself said that those who wish to know about me should come and visit those holy places. And if should they go to those places, respect and show them as they met me, they will receive the same blessings and benefit by going to these places. So today, being part of Sakadawa and Buddha Jayanti, I thought it would be good for us to recollect, if you know this before, if not, just hear it for the first time, and then try to refresh your memory of the Buddha is not a mysterious figure, It's not a kind of a legendary figure. He was actually an incredible being, Indian prince, who actually had things to renounce. And who renounced everything. He didn't go from poverty to monkhood. He went from riches to monkhood. He actually gave up status, possessions, positions, relationships, youth, comfort. You name it, he had everything. Maybe he didn't have a limousine those days, but he had very impressive horse carts. He had all the things, but nothing really delighted him. He never saw them as cause of happiness. He saw them as hindrances from achieving enlightenment. So he renounced that and he went. So Buddha lived on alms. That's why you can see on the left hand, Buddha is always holding alms. Not because Buddha will die of hunger, but because he was doing that also for the benefit of others, so that they can hear the Dharma through his contacting. Everyone who offers a meal, they get to meet the Buddha and his teachings. So his followers in all Buddhist countries also try to emulate as best as they can, follow the Vinaya and live on alms. So therefore, when we commemorate the Vesak, we were celebrating the enlightened activities of the Buddha. It was an enlightened one who will be generous celebrating any Indian's anniversary, any Indian king's anniversary anyway. So some do, but we have good reason to universalize the celebration of Vesak as life and teachings, enlightenment of the Buddha. So I was just saying to my Tibetan audience that we need to universalize celebrating of Vesak by all Buddhists come together once a year, rather than everybody doing their own thing on whichever day they suits, type of thing. We should all celebrate. Everybody can take a day off for various things. They know in Buddhist calendar, why can't you take a day off from your work, give notice to your boss, and then that's what the Buddhists should be. Like Muslim people do that. And Christians always get to celebrate Christmas on the Christmas day, whether it falls on Monday or Saturday or Tuesday. Why don't we? Why are the Buddhists always playing the weak role? Oh, okay, oh yeah, never even say we are Vesak Day, I'm a Buddhist, can I take a leave? Why can't you do that at your work and be active part of your small or whatever community is, do things to honor the Buddha and try to create a merit to make other people meet the Dharma by people doing proper way of honoring the Buddha's enlightened activities. And so this, I'm sure it's happening to most places according to their abilities, their circumstances. And we, a small group of people, Buddhists in countries like Australia, where most people are walking away from religion, we also need to do our bit in order to participate in pan-Buddhist celebration of Vesak, like United Nations endorsed the celebrating Vesak officially. Also, the Indian government last few years, since Modi came into power, has been celebrating officially the Vesak by the Ministry of Culture, hosting it in a big way, inviting the monks and giving them danas. Whatever they do, one thing, but the fact that they are a government like India is hosting a Vesak celebration is a very commendable thing. And so every single organization should also try to do that by taking time off, not just a couple of hours, whatever it takes, because if you can do a very good Vesak, many people will get to know the Dharma through going to the Vesak celebration. Where they need to know the dates, culture, and activities, and then people will hear about the Buddha. Hearing about the Buddha, finding refuge in the Triple Gem, is a very important occasion we must create for other people to meet the Dharma. It's not a sort of inconvenient for you and me to do a few things, but create a platform where other people can meet the Dharma. How would you like other people to meet the Dharma? On every Sunday, will they show up? On average, classes, will they show up? But if there is a very special Buddhist festival where it is very organized properly, people may come just for cultural reasons, and then eventually that's how they will discover Dharma. So let the blessed Vesak become such an occasion for us to rejoice and appreciate and renew our refuge and to follow the teaching to the best of our ability. So Buddha Jayanti, 2568, that's this year. So of course it moves on like that every year. But of course real Buddha Jayanti is celebrated by every day, remembering our small commitment, whether it's personal practice or study or listening or propagating, lifting this, giving support to your organization to get various things done. It's always necessary for various people to take different roles, because we don't have something called center that there's some people do, others are not. Everybody must see, what can I do? Then the thing happens, because otherwise people imagine as there is a so-called others who will do them. But not everybody is able to do all the things as much as we think they have taken that title or role. So people should really think, what can I do, rather than why isn't the center doing things? So we should. I can see some people smiling. I know you guys do a lot in your group, so I'm not saying. But it's always important to see what can I do to support the center, rather than say why the center isn't doing such and such. So please sing out if you can help, because we have a lot of activities happening to do the logistically doing various things, helping the builders and making the vases to bury under the concrete slabs, and statue filling, and the stupa filling, and rolling the mantras. We have lots of work to do. So anyway, so keep those in your mind in rejoicing the Buddha's infinite qualities through his enlightenment and wisdom and compassion, which we should all practice in our everyday life. So with this, we'll stop here. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a blessed Vesak month. Today is just the 18th day. You've got 12 more days to keep on doing meritorious things. So we'll do the dedication. Mary, thank you, everyone. O Bade Mere Me Ho Da De Pa Me Ge Ho Ne Me Ale Pere Do Be From De Ocean Ba Da De Zene De Here Da Maya Na De Whatever merit I have, may because I love to the Maya Jiji courage, Manju Junu as I'm to follow it. Days I should take all the mere excellent body jita tebe where no yaranza where has been meeting freely the generation. Thank you, everyone.